There are very few things more amazing than the human mind. A particular grouping of atoms, forged in starfire, arranged and connected in such a way that it yearns to comprehend the world around it. It's why every culture in history has shared stories by the campfire, in the hope that with each telling, our dark ignorance recedes just a bit further through enlightenment. From rubbing sticks for fire to launching spacecraft in less than 1,000 generations, our capacity for intelligence is overwhelmingly greater than what's needed to merely survive. It's as if we were meant for greater things. We are the very essence of the universe itself, given sentience so that it may understand itself better. It's for this sole purpose that Steve pursued psychology, and I was eager to follow. One hypothesis Steve was researching was that the mind was software. If it was programmable at will, we would truly unlock our tremendous human potential. And the way to do this was through the right combination of words. After all, our reality is shaped by our thoughts, and our thoughts are shaped by words themselves. Steve believes that words have a lot of power, much more than people realize. To underline the point, he gave me the following demonstration. If I wanted you to do something, like to scratch yourself, I could ask you to do it, but you would have no reason to want to. I can't command you to scratch. But as you sit there, reading these words in your head, you start to notice how your skin feels. You notice the different temperatures at different parts of your body. You notice how the fabric on your clothes rubs gently against your skin. You become aware of how it tickles the hairs on your arms and legs, and the more you try to ignore it, the more you can feel it tingle. And then you sense it spreading down to other parts of your body, and the more you try not to think about it, the stronger the sensation. The more you fight it, the stronger your urge to scratch. I couldn't help but to subconsciously start scratching myself all over. I still do just thinking about it. Where there wasn't a feeling before, I had a very real physical and mental reaction, all from some carefully chosen words. Steve explained that this is fundamentally how hypnosis works. Unlike how Hollywood portrays it, though, there are currently some limits to what it can do. It's not a sledgehammer that makes people do things strongly against their will, but a feather that tips the scales of suggestibility. Two areas that are true enough, though, is to help in recalling memories and to improve the powers of perception. To have the power of Sherlock Holmes, as Steve puts it, and Satya was a good subject to test this on. We didn't need Sherlock to come to the sickening conclusion that they'd been consuming human flesh, though. Joachim had worked it out, and was traumatized by the thought of it, enough to drink bleach as if it would cleanse his soul. His last words were not just that they had 8 orphans, but they had 8 orphans. What we needed Sherlock for was to uncover the mystery of why Father Abraham would commit such an atrocity, and who was the poor victim. Satya agreed to being hypnotized, with the appropriate safeguards in place, to dig up more about her past. She went under a lot quicker and easier than Steve had expected. It seemed like this wasn't the first time she had undergone this process. Once she was relaxed and compliant, we started asking her about her earliest memories at the orphanage. Thinking back to the first day, Satya recalled how excited she was to finally belong somewhere. She was happy to have new brothers and sisters to play with, and a father to teach her and look after her. Abraham had spoken to each of the children separately before their afternoon nap. Satya was very nervous when it came to her turn. Couldn't stop fidgeting. Abraham was very gentle, though, and his soothing voice calmed her down tremendously. He asked her about her trip to the orphanage, what she thought of the others, what she liked to eat. He said many things, and talked so much in that hypnotic voice of his that she had fallen asleep during her interview. She also recalled how the orphanage always suffered from power outages. Every few days the lights would flicker and dim and not turn back on for a day or two. It was such a common occurrence that Father didn't even stop classes when interrupted by a blackout. For this reason, electrical appliances were scarce at the orphanage. They didn't have a TV, air conditioning, or even a fridge. They grew vegetables in a large communal garden, and the few animals they had, chickens and a couple of goats, were kept for their eggs and milk rather than their meat. They ate economically during the week, but Father always made sure that there was a bit of extra food for some extravagance on Sundays. Satya spoke fondly of how Abraham would teach them to cook using the gas stove, and how to prepare vinadalos. At this point, she had a sudden realization of why her recipe was never quite the same. It lacked the faint taste of disinfectant. To ensure a supply of fresh meat for their feasts, it became clear that Abraham had to have kept the missing orphan alive for at least several months. Each week, Abraham would have sliced off some flesh, gave the meat to the children to cook with, and the bones to the dog that guarded his quarters. He would have kept the orphan in his own quarters. It was the only place in the entire orphanage that was off limits. The children had never so much as heard a sound coming from his room, so the tongue would have been one of the first things to be removed. It would be how Father Abraham could get away with murder, leaving no evidence of his crime. It was hard to believe that Father could be such a cold, calculating psychopath, but the threads were coming together. A loose end was still the identity of the victim. We asked Satya to focus on the night she saw the ghostly boy in her bed. That night, after Satya awoke screaming, Abraham had rushed into the children's room some moments later. He held her and comforted her, then asked her what was wrong. His face hardened for an almost imperceptible moment after she described the limbless horror. His face returned to its familiar warmth as he hugged her and said, "No, my child, my dear Satya. It was just a nightmare, a bad dream. Come with me, child, and I'll help you forget." He asked the others to go back to sleep and took Satya to his quarters. She noticed it was a very sparsely furnished room. An old bed on one end, a weathered writing desk beside it, and rows of books lining the opposite wall. She noticed the faint smell of disinfectant mixed with bombs lingering in the room. The far corner of the room was partitioned with a large curtain, opened enough just to reveal a tattered mattress. Abraham made her lie down in his bed, while he sat in the chair right next to it. He told her to close her eyes and kept repeating in his soothing voice that it was a dream and nothing more, and that she was feeling sleepy, oh so tired and sleepy, and her eyelids were so heavy that she would not be able to open them until morning. And in the morning, she would wake up feeling good and forget about the night's troubles. Satya did feel exhausted by then, but her sleep was far from peaceful. She dreamt of Father having a loud argument. She hated seeing him angry and would do anything to stop him yelling at her. Only, it wasn't shouting at her, but someone else. Something about a deal, of how the others would be spared if he sacrificed the girl as agreed. That Satya should be spared, and he will find another. When Satya awoke, it was back in her own bed, the last of the children to wake. She felt like it was a good day. The memories of the night before had dissipated like so many dreams had before it. Nothing eventful happened from that night onwards. For the next couple of years, life continued as normal, though Abraham grew noticeably more sickly during that time. The children would hear him screaming in pain or wailing sorrowfully from his room on some nights, but when they asked him about it the next morning, he would just smile and tell them not to worry. Even he had bad dreams every now and then. A day eventually came when Abraham gathered all the children and told them that he had nothing left to teach them, and it was time for them to be part of society. He would not send them out into the world alone, though. he had arranged jobs in foster families for everyone in the city. With a teary eye, he hugged each and every one of his children and gave each an envelope containing the precious few dollars that remained of his savings. He closed the orphanage and became a recluse, spending the remainder of his life deep in prayer and solitude. After he died, they found only one item of value in his possession: a girl's locket with the name Vanna engraved on the back. They buried it with him. It was a couple of weeks after the funeral that Satya started noticing the boy again. She had welcomed him into her life in the past, and now he wouldn't leave. Father had tried to make her forget him, but she still remembers. That boy, lying in the bed with her, with no eyes and no tongue, just this horrible hissing. No arms, no legs, just stumps, laying there, looking at her, hissing in agony. It won't let her forget. Whenever she lies in bed, she feels it breathing on her neck, whispering evils into her ear and tormenting her thoughts, telling her that Abraham did not keep his bargain to make another sacrifice, that Abraham had cheated him through death, and that he will claim what it owed, and she will give it to him. She must sacrifice a child and feed its flesh to another, so that his essence can be passed on as it now does in her. And if she doesn't choose, he will choose for her, one of her own. As much as she tries to forget him, he won't let her. Every night, she hears him hissing beside her and is too afraid to open her eyes. If you made it this far, I hope you'll follow me on Twitter at KingSpookCreepy. Also, if you're feeling generous, I'd appreciate it if you donate even $1 to my Patreon over at patreon.com/KingSpook. Every dollar helps. The hope is eventually I'll be able to get enough through Patreon that I can do this full time. Thanks for watching.